If you'd like to keep the text in front of you, go to James chapter 1. We'll be working primarily through James 1, verse 19 through 27. But you know how it goes. We'll bring in some other verses too. So let's begin with this by way of introduction. We live in a culture that thrives on blame. You don't have to watch 15 seconds of the news media. Pick your channel. It doesn't matter because everybody's sitting around blaming everybody else for everything that's going wrong. And that's pretty much the way it's been throughout most of mankind. There is nothing new under the sun. So James 1, 19 through 27 addresses not exactly what I just said, but it gives us a way to manage what we're talking about. If you look at it a little deeper, now if you just read through it a little quick, you go, well, I didn't get that. That's not what we're going to do. We're not going to do it real quick. So what happens when you get into the blame game is you basically turn control of your life over to someone else. You give them the keys to your life, you give them the driver's license of your life, you give them the title, the registration of your life, and you just let them control where it goes. Now, I know when we say it that way, people are going, I want nothing to do with that. Amen, I don't either. And that's exactly what blame does, is it gives other people control. You don't want to give other people control. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what James suggests. We're going to listen first, then we're going to react. We're not going to play, well, that isn't fair. It may not be fair. How many times has sitting around whining and being absolutely correct, going, well, that's not fair, changed anything in your life? How many times did Washington look down on you and go, well, you know, they're right. That's not fair. Let's change policy. How many times did corporate at work go, well, you know, that's right. Let's change policy because somebody feels like it's unfair. You know, it just, come on. It's, you know, doesn't work. I can't believe they said that to me. Well, I can't either sometimes, but that's the way life works, right? They made me react that way. Okay, now here's where you get to see that you're giving away control. People can say anything they want to say to you. You choose how you react to it. Now, that's a tough one, but that's reality. You choose how you react to the things that are said to you. And so these are basically signs of giving away control. And I'm going to tell you, no, don't give away your control. This is a crazy world. There's enough unexpected going on in it. You need all the control you can find and manage to navigate what's in front of you. So James says, this you know, my beloved brethren, everyone must be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger, for the anger of man does not achieve the righteousness of God. And I'm going to put, just to connect the dots for you, the blame game into the anger of man category. And it doesn't achieve the righteousness of God. So basically, James says, what I want you to do, I want you to listen, or maybe the situations you need to observe. I want you to be slow to speak. Don't overreact. Don't get into a knee-jerk reaction. Slow to anger. Really think things through. And I would take it beyond that. I think this is good advice. Count to 10. How many times have you heard that before you say anything? Count to 10. Sometimes you need to count to 100 or longer. Sometimes, and this is wise, and now I know it won't work in every situation, but you can just look at the situation you're in, whoever you're talking to, and go, look, I need 5 minutes. I'm going to walk away for 5 minutes. I'm going to be back in 5 minutes, and we're going to pursue this. But I just need to step away and take a breath. And you step away and take a breath, and they're going to have to take a breath too. And that's going to help things not go too sideways. So you're not responsible for what other people do. And this is where we get mixed up. Bad things do happen. There are unfair things. There are evil things said to you. That is the reality of life. You are not responsible for that, but you are responsible for how you respond to it. And the moment I give my response and excuse, you made me, who's in the driver's seat? Who do you want to be in the driver's seat? Now, I don't know about you, but I want to be in the driver's seat, which means I can recognize what somebody said, whether it was okay or it was just the worst thing you can imagine, but I want to be the one that takes the next best step I can in the situation I'm in. So get rid of your excuses. Quit that. I'd do better if my life were different. I can't help but go, well, duh. Well, if I'd been born in a better family, I'd been born in a better time, I'd been born into more money, I'd been born into a more academic group, I'd been born into a more loving parent, born into a more loving extended family. Come on, we can run excuses and excuses and excuses with if my life were different. It's not. You were born where you were born, in the situation you were born, to the people you were born, and there's nothing we can do about it except play the best game we can with a hand life dealt us. That's your only option. That's it. Yes, things were unfair. Absolutely. Now, what's whining and moaning about it going to change? Absolutely nothing. It's just going to give up some of my joy. Well, I'm going to start tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a better day. I don't know if we're going to get tomorrow, but anyway, how about that's just the way I am? Okay, we could really run on this one in a second, but I'm going to say, okay, that may be the way you are, but now you're Christian. And Christians don't run on this excuse. That's just the way I am. That's just the way God made me. Oh, no, it's not. If that's just the way I am is a valid excuse for the whining I want to do, then let me ask, why is that not a valid excuse for the homosexual that says, well, this is just the way God made me? And I'm going to go, oh, no, that don't work, buddy. I'm sorry. That's not the, no, no. And yet we get into some other little whiny thing, and you'll hear brethren say it, well, that's just the way I am. Well, you need to get over the way you are. Because later on we'll have 1 Corinthians 11:1. We're supposed to be learning to imitate Christ, not defend the way we are. So excuses are barriers. And the toughest barriers to overcome are the barriers that we individually set up in our own life. Those are the ones that are going to defeat us. Somebody else set up a barrier, we're like, oh, no, no, not my, no, me. I'm going around that one. But if we set up the barrier, then all of a sudden we defend it. What's my barrier? I got to defend it. No, you got to tear it down. James 1:21, therefore putting aside all filthiness and all that remains of wickedness and humility, receive the word implanted, which is able to save your soul. Now again, when I look at filthiness here and and all that remains of wickedness, I'm afraid what we do is we think of the extreme. That's the alcoholic, that's the homosexual, that's the rapist, that's the murderer. Well, that's all wicked, yes. But all filthiness and all that remains of wickedness also includes my little whiny crybaby's disposition that won't stand up and take responsibility for my own life, when the Bible says we're each accountable for our own life, and we will stand at the judgment seat of Christ and give an account for the deeds done in the body. When I deny my accountability and my role in situations, that's part of filthiness. That is part of wickedness. It just doesn't stand out as obvious as the guy who's home half drunk, beating his wife and abusing his kids, does it? So we remove whatever's holding us back, because as we sing, I'm pressing on the upward way, new heights I'm gaining day by day. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get better. And what we have to do is find out, okay, what's holding me back? Where am I messing up? What's the pink elephant in the room I'm refusing to look at? And now I'm going to look at it square in the eyes. And we're going to deal with it. That's tough. So excuses are just a form of self-deception. We see this in the Bible. Christ is doing the parable, and one guy says, well, I bought a field. The other guy says, well, I need to go test my oxen. And one guy goes, I just got married. That's all in Luke 14:16 beginning. And it's just a series of excuses, and they sound really good to the person who's making them. Because as the old saying goes, excuses sound best to the person that's making the excuse. Now, if you're on the receiving end of the excuse, you're like, no, I don't think I'm buying that. So what's one thing, you just pick one thing, that would be a good place to start, that you keep making excuses for? You got it. We all got it. You know, it runs in us. Now, it may be pretty trivial, may not even be moral, the issue. It just the place you keep making excuses, or it may be one that's really significant that's going to keep you out of heaven. But in either case, it's keeping your life from being the fullest that it can be. So excuses are just going to make us feel justified while we stay the same. Well, I never was as smart as my older sister. I just muddle through life. Get over that. The brain's a tool. You learn to use that thing, you know. I heard this said on a podcast once, and I just love this little saying. If nothing changes, nothing changes. Now, that's really simple, but I'm going to pause and tell you, folks, that is profound right there. If nothing changes, nothing changes. And that's talking about you and me in our own personal private life. Is your marriage not what you really wished your marriage would be? Change something. Because if nothing changes, guess what? Nothing changes. Is your social circle really not what you want your social circle to be? Well, what are you going to do about it? Because if nothing changes, oh, nothing changes, right? Is your relationship with God not what you really thought it ought to be? What are you going to do about it? Well, if nothing changes, nothing changes. Is your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health really not where you want it to be? What are you going to do about it? There's a path forward. There's always a path forward. The only time there's not a path forward is either you have got into total dementia, your brain doesn't work anymore. We'll give you a pass on that. Now, we're going to stick you in a nursing home because you can't take care of yourself anymore. But we'll give you a total pass if you have total dementia or you're dead. Otherwise, there is a path forward. But if nothing changes, nothing changes. And the point of this lesson is you've got to own it and you've got to be the one to decide, not me. You decide what you want to try to change in your life. Which part do you want to work on? And maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. And maybe you'll give it a try and go, well, that didn't work. Let's try another thing. Well, that one didn't work. Let's try another one. Because you keep trying, you're going to find the thing that makes the change. But if you keep making excuses, well, I don't have time for that right now. I just got married. I really need to pay attention to my wife. And nothing changes. Nothing changes. So no one can take responsibility for you. Blame is the path of least resistance, and man, is it ever. Man, it just feels so good. It's like I get to stay the way I am in my own miserable, mediocre life, but it's not my fault. Now, men really like that one because men want to feel like they're right. No, I don't think that's a good path. Now, I do want to say again, I do believe the violations in life are real. I don't mean to discredit anyone's pain or discomfort. Uh, 1 in 3 women are sexually abused before the age of 13. That's real. Most kids got abused, whether intentionally or unintentionally, and I'm using abuse really wide here right now. How many of you had a sibling, the sibling broke the lamp, they looked at you and said, he did it, and mom wore out your backside? You felt totally betrayed. You didn't get a, you didn't, but, and it saw a young man bend over. Whap! Happened to everybody, didn't it? The violations, whether they're what I'm calling little there or big on the other, they're real. I don't mean to kick your violation to the curb. I'm just asking how long are you going to play it? And if it hasn't played to your favor and worked out to your deepest inner benefit in the last 10 years, what makes you think it's going to work out to your benefit in 20 years? Or maybe you've been dragging it for 30 or 40 years and it hasn't worked out to your benefit yet. You still haven't found, oh, I hate to use this word, but it's the first one that comes to mind. You still haven't found that nirvana, that inner spiritual peace, that place of the peace that passes understanding. But I'm sure if I drag the same baggage I've been dragging behind me for 60 or 70 years, if I can just drag it another 5 years, I know it's going to happen. That's crazy. Who's abusing who now? Yeah. Now, again, the violations are all real. But so what? I mean, Who hadn't been violated? Then we go, yeah, but my violation's worse than your violation. We're all on a spectrum. I was violated just like you were violated, different situations, of course. And some people were. They were. Their childhood, I look at theirs and I look at mine and go, whew, thank you, Lord. And then there are other people who they had it better than I had it. They really did. What do you do about it? Then the comparison game is just a fool game. So it's our choices that get in our way, our choices to let difficulties stop us. And we do. Well, let's stop it. I'd quit drinking, but you know how hard I had it in the sixth grade. Okay. I'd quit drinking, but I lost my job. Okay, drinking get you a new job? Man, if drinking to get you a new job, we got a new employment program coming on, right? No, it doesn't work that way, right? It's just, I don't know what to say. Prodigal son finally woke up and he owned it. Remember, he hit the bottom, and sometimes we got to hit the bottom. And he wakes up and goes, I ain't living this way no more. These pigs, this is bad. I'm going home to dad. And he humbled himself and he went home to dad, and things worked out a whole lot better. Look, there's no knight in shining armor coming. I'm sorry, it ain't happening. Fact of the matter is, everybody's too busy trying to figure out their own life, and they'll give you a little time here and there. But there's no one sitting out there with a group of soldiers waiting to come over the hill to rescue your life. It just doesn't work that way. And so if you get into excuses and you don't learn to own it, no, you're going to get crumbs. So how do we own our choices? We recognize our excuses for what they are. They're just excuses. They're a reason for me to stay the same in whatever thing I'm thinking, and yet feel justified in staying the same. They're a reason to replace my excuse. I need to replace my excuses with action. I just got to come up with something. Look, there is a path forward. I don't know what it is for your situation, but people can start getting. I'm going to pick on us old people for a moment. They start getting older. They start getting weaker. Well, you just don't understand. I'm 67 years old. 67. Archer affectionately calls me old man. Now, if you ever hear him call me old man, don't get mad at him. That's just the way we communicate. We're having a great time. Now, my granddad was already retired and housebound at my age because grandma didn't want him to do anything, and he sat down and quit. I ain't doing that. I may be in the gym trying to press 150 pounds and die under the weight. And when I do that, you go, he died just where he wanted to. Now, I'd rather die up here in the pulpit. You talk about one sermon you'd never forget. He was right in the middle of the verse, and he said, but I'll take Planet Fitness, I'll take the dojo, I'll take any activity. But look, you get old, and life starts creeping in on you, and limitations do happen. Okay. Am I going to sit around and go, yeah, but I'm old? I've known people have bellyached about being old ever since I've known them. I'm like, get over it. Make a plan forward. There is a plan forward. There are nutritional options, there are exercise options, there are physical therapy options. There are options. I don't want to do that one. I don't like to take vitamins. I don't want to watch what I eat. Okay, you do you, I'll go do me. Then you receive the word and plant it. I mean, you take God's word 360 degrees every way you can. That's how we begin to own it. I'm going to follow the Bible plan. And I'm going to understand that blaming others is just not the path to success. That's just a total waste of your time and my time and everybody else's time. So don't just hear the words, you got to do it. If hearing alone worked, man, life would be awesome, wouldn't it? How many people have sat in pews year after year after year doing nothing? So you got to do it. Prove yourselves doers of the word, and not merely hearers who delude themselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he's like a man who looks in his natural face in a mirror. For once he has looked at himself and gone away, he immediately forgot what kind of person he was. It takes courage to look in the mirror. It does. Takes a lot of courage to face the cold, hard, ugly truth about where I am in life. I'm not trying to say it's easy. I'm saying it's tough. And most people would rather I say, oh, you just don't understand what my childhood was like. I don't know what that's got to do with it now that we're 50 years, 60, 70 years past our childhood. One motivational speaker said it this way. Said, if somebody knocked you down, that's not your fault. That's okay. You got knocked down. I come back by a week later and you're still laying on the ground in the same spot. We got a problem. The things that happened did happen. Amen. But it takes a lot of courage to go, it's really time for me to get over that sixth grade teacher, Mr. Elder. I kind of liked him actually. One of his favorite sayings was, Clarence, come here, bend over. And back then it was in front of the whole class, and the whole class giggled. But, yeah, okay, you were 9 years old, 10. Get over it already. Life's tough. Unfair things happen. It takes courage to look at that and go, but I'm a grown man now. And I am. That's what we do. So the victim mindset. Today is not the day. No, today doesn't feel right. I'm waiting to feel ready. That doesn't happen very often, does it? Someone else has to take the first step. Now, this happens in relationships a whole lot of time. Somebody's not happy with where their marriage is at or other relationships. Just pick a relationship, one or two of them. They go, this really hasn't been satisfying. And when they make a change, I'll start changing. Don't you do it. Don't you do it. It was the old, let me get my book right, Love Dare. They did a little movie on it, and then there was a book on it. And it's a way to transform your relationship without even having to talk to the other person about it. And this is all it does. So you got a husband and wife, and whatever the book is, I got it on my shelf. We'll look it up if you need to. And the husband is in a horrible marriage in the movie. They're about to divorce. And the last thing he wants is a divorce. And then his dad comes to him and says, son, your mom and I, we were about to divorce too. And this is how we changed it. And then they just started doing nice things for their mate. That was it. They just planted happy seeds, if I can call it that. And they took the first step. And in the wonderful way that Hollywood works, the marriages were saved. So I'm going to start where I'm at. I'm going to start right where I'm at, and I'm going to learn as I go. I don't know where I'm going exactly, but I'm going to take a step and I'm going to move forward. I'm going to get out of the boat. And that is encouraging right there, because Peter got out of the boat. Now, everybody likes to get Peter out of the boat and go, yeah, but he fell. Okay, Peter got out of the boat. Peter did stumble, messed that one up a little bit. Who was one of the inside three disciples of Christ picking? Peter. And how many sermons have you heard preached about the 11 that stayed in the boat praising them? Never, ever, ever. Never, 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 ever. Get out on the field, take a hit, fumble the ball. Okay. Stay on the bench. We don't praise you for staying on the bench. Growing's a process of stumbling forward. That's all it is. Once you can get your head around that, then you free yourself up. So you identify, I'm going to say one area. I would not go over 3 areas, depending on how big that one area is. Identify one area you want to learn to work on, and then identify a path. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. Give yourself a game plan. Now, you always get to back up and reevaluate that game plan, and then hold yourself accountable. Did I actually do what I said I was going to do? Take that long, hard look in the mirror. That's back to James 1:23. So you look at your natural face in a mirror, and you go, okay, I see some stuff to fix. Then you start fixing it. No more about age or circumstances or whatever. Well, I didn't go to the right college, or, there are endless excuses. And just look at it. And it stings. It's not a lot of fun. But you got to do it if you really want to move forward. And so your growth is going to begin with just some good old-fashioned self-honesty. No yes buts, no, 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 no. Other people are wrong. I get that. And having known that for me now, 67 years, never made them change. In fact, it's quite rare with a person when you point out and go, you're wrong. And they go, oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Let me change. So when we refuse to look in the mirror, we're really not being Christian. Now, we may be moral people, but we're supposed to be learning to imitate Christ. That's 1 Corinthians 11:1. Paul said, imitate me as I imitate Christ. We're supposed to be perfecting holiness. That's 2 Corinthians 7:1. So it's not just, are you saved? Did you get baptized? Okay, that's really, really important. That's the beginning of it. But it's not like, okay, you got baptized, now we're done. No, that's the enlistment. That's the start. Now the training begins. And we're going to learn to perfect holiness, or as Peter would say, learn to be holy as God is holy. But if I will never look at me and identify my flaws, then how am I ever going to be holy as God is holy, as long as I'm pretending I don't have any flaws? And as long as I'm playing, yeah, but over there, he's got a bigger flaw. Well, I'm glad it's him and not me. Because an easier flaw ought to be easier to work with, right? So if we don't have the courage to really honestly see ourselves, then we don't have the courage to grow. End of story. We just don't. Because that's what you got to do. So we go, well, that's just the way I am. Okay, translation. That means I don't want to change. That's really what that means. But let me do one quick aside. I got an eye on the clock. We'll get this done. So when somebody looks at you and you've done a little, you've tried to counsel, you give them the good advice, and they keep coming up with these excuses. That's just the way I am. That's just my personality. You just don't understand how hard I've had it in life. Look, what I want you to hear is I'm not ready to change. I'm still enjoying the blame game. I haven't got my bitterness, my anger, and my vengeance out yet. That's really what you're hearing. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to change. This is just my personality. Translation, I don't want to change. It's not my fault. Translation, I don't want to change. I want other people to change. Self-deception. It leaves you in an uncomfortable place. And it really does. So you got your diabetic. We've all known these people. Be out eating. They get that big old giant cinnamon roll, right? Those things are good. And you go, you sure you ought to be eating that? You're diabetic. Well, I took a little extra in my shot. Okay. And your circulation's doing what? And your eyes are doing what? And what's that doing to the rest of your health? You see, it leaves you in an ugly place. So self-honesty, you got to have it. You pray for wisdom. Ask God to search you. Stop comparing. Start examining yourself. Don't ask, am I better than others? That's a fool's game. Commit to some change. Plan your work. Work your plan. And face the truth. Face it sooner or later, but you're going to face it because that's the way life works. Take ownership of it. Words have power. Be careful what you let come out of your mouth. If you don't bridle your tongue, you deceive your own heart. And your religion's worthless. Now, there's a lot of depth there. If anyone thinks himself to be religious, yet does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his own heart, it's not my fault. I can't do anything about it. It's all beyond my control. You see where we're going with this? You've given up ownership. We're letting somebody, something else do it. So our words say a whole lot about whether I'm in the shifting blame or am I trying to grow up. It's not my fault. They did me wrong. That's just the way I am. Those are bad things. How about I was wrong? I need to take responsibility here. I got a lesson to learn in this. I could have handled that better. I have absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. I was having a conversation this week, and we were talking about you stumble across the line, you goof up and go, well, I could do that better. You get up and you do that better. And you keep at it, eventually you get it. Let's find it a solution instead of someone to blame. I get such a tickle out of that. People are so intent on finding the person to blame. Who did it wrong? We got to put somebody's name on that. We got to label them as wrong. Because if they're wrong, I was right. Sometimes we're all wrong together. So you have the ripple effect and you toss the rock in. You know how that all works. And death and life are in the power of the tongue. What's coming out of your mouth? What's bouncing in between your ears? Because the words plant seeds, and the words you say to yourself in here that nobody hears plant seeds too. As long as you're going, I can't, your body goes, no, you're right, you can't, and it defends that crazy. So pause. Pause before you speak. Pause before you react. Is this going to hurt or help others? Is this going to hurt or help me? Take responsibility for your own words. Simple stuff, isn't it? And if you spoke too recklessly, apologize. And, I know some people have a lot of trouble going, I'm sorry. Okay. What if you just try this one? And didn't quite come out right, did it? Okay. Is that an official apology? Maybe not, maybe so, depending on how technical you want to get. Is it an acknowledgement that I didn't do it right? Yes, it is. And you know what I have found? That not all the time, but most of the time when you have said something stupid and you back up and go, yeah, that didn't come out right, did it? People go, no, it didn't. But they're a lot more receptive to give you a second try than when you get stubborn and want to back up and double down on it. So be really intentional about the words that you speak to other people, the sport, and also between your own ears there also. And then seek to serve others. Instead of saying, who's going to take care of me? Ask, who can I go serve? Pure and undefiled religion in the sight of our God and Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their distress, to keep oneself unstained from the world. James, didn't say perfect, pure and undefiled religion is having perfect theology. He didn't say it was being the deepest Bible student in the church building. He didn't say it was having the most polished prayers. What he said was perfect and undefiled religion is learning to serve other people. We'll talk about that more in our second lesson later on today. So we're going to go from receiving to giving. The Son of Man didn't come to be served, but to serve. So self-focus, it's a trap. It's crazy. Get out of it. Don't let yourself get there. The happiest people you know, and look around, the happiest people you know are usually the least self-focused people. They're like, how can I help other people? So you just ask, who can I encourage? Who can I serve? Who can I serve without expectation of return? Now, that gets a little tricky because a lot of people are like, I'll scratch your back, you'll scratch mine. And that's okay in some situations. But we're trying to notch it up a level higher and make serving just a habit, make it a lifestyle. So you're going to find your ultimate freedom, at least in my opinion, if you listen and respond wisely, get rid of all the excuses, to learn to be a doer, not just a hearer. Take a good look in the mirror, ugly, hard look. Use words that build people up and build yourself up, and make serving a lifestyle. I want you to own it. I want you to be a doer of the word and own your life and take responsibility, because that's what James teaches us to do. Now, there's just one last question, of course, and we're getting ready to sing the song, Let Him In. Have you let Him in? Now, you may have been baptized and not let Him in. Ooh, that was a thought, wasn't it? Have you let Him into your heart? And if you hadn't, then you need to make a change. Now, if you hadn't been baptized in water, we need to do that. Our baptistry is ready. We'll help you however we can while we stand and sing.